There's nothing better than overreacting to the first 5 weeks of the NFL season. And so with that, we're going to just do our top 5 power ranking. How does that feel?
Yeah, there really are only 4 teams in the NFL right now. So let's see who
You're
gets...
going to cut it down to 4?
No, let's see who gets in that top 5.
Okay, that's fair. We'll stick with 32 for now, but we'll see. A week from now, we could cut it down. We're presented to you, of course, by mybookie.ag, the best place to get all of the information that you get right here and put it to good use. Mybookie.ag allows you to do in-game live betting or bet on anything from total spreads to individual fantasy player totals. Whatever you want, they've got it. Use promo code PFF to get a dollar-for-dollar match on your first deposit. It's real simple. PFF plus mybookie.ag. You play, you win, you get paid. All right, let's start at the bottom here. 32 through 21. A new bottom feeder in the group, the New York Football Giants. They almost won, but what we're saying is that might be a little misleading.
Yeah, and even though they play in the NFC East, they only have about a 3% chance of winning that division because they still struggle at the most important position, which is quarterback. Eli Manning has not been good. He's not been throwing the ball downfield as much. And even when they got lucky and got some plays, I think, to go against the Panthers, they still weren't able to pull it off. You know, it's actually been a pretty tough year to have a 32, Cleveland's elevated themselves. Arizona won a game last week on the road. Every team has some redeemable qualities, and the Giants are no different. We just happen to have them at 32 here.
Let's talk about a couple of teams that have moved up but are still in that bottom tier, namely the Houston Texans and the Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
Strong quarterback performances led the way there. We expect those quarterback performances. They've been pretty stable so far. I expect them to continue. So Deshaun Watson versus Baker Mayfield, which of those teams has the best chance at moving up into that next tier?
I think the Cleveland Browns do. They haven't really helped their quarterback at all with drops and things like that. I think their defense is far better than Houston's defense is. They only allowed 9 points against Baltimore last week. Houston, I think, was aided by some let's say improving play calling by the Dallas Cowboys last week. So I think that Cleveland has the easiest road up, and the youngest quarterback there.
I'm going to agree wholeheartedly. I wanted to disagree. I was hoping you'd take the Texans, but you didn't give me a shot there. Let's move now to 20 through 11. At 20, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. An interesting team because now with Jameis Winston back, they're almost a new team now going forward. We're going to forget everything we knew about them. Hopefully their defense rebounds, and whatever Jameis can do, that's really as far as that team will go.
Yeah, even though they have had a rough last 2 weeks before their bye, they still have a better outlook now than they did at the beginning of the season, with Vegas having them anywhere around 6.5 in terms of an over-under. We'd have them about 7.5 wins, so 1-win improvement just in the first 4 games with a backup quarterback. Now they get Jameis back, and Jameis last season led all passers in positively graded throws. So there's some upside there, especially in a division where I think their current opponent, Atlanta, has been down. Carolina's probably due for a regression. And so really, I do think Tampa Bay has an opportunity to move up here, despite kind of a discouraging last 2 weeks.
Still a 27% chance to make the playoffs based on our season-long simulations. So that's a team that's in 20, but I'm actually pretty bullish on. Let's talk about a couple others that are here, a little closer to the top. That trio there in 13, 12, and 11. We've got Tennessee, Chicago, and Jacksonville. Really interesting because I think the quarterback for all those teams is still the biggest question mark.
Yep.
Do you agree?
Yeah, all 3 of these teams are either in first place or tied for first place in their division, and yet still out of the top 10 for all the reasons you said. Jacksonville, Blake Bortles seems to have a good game like he did against New England and follow it with a few clunkers. Chicago, Mitch Trubisky still has more negatively graded throws than positively graded throws. And, I think for Tennessee, Marcus Mariota, you're still wondering, can he come back from that injury? They had 3 consecutive games where they won and then they go to Buffalo and lose outright. So I think that there's just too many questions there for all 3 of those teams to really back them moving forward.
What's interesting is of that group, the team that we have winning the most games is the Tennessee Titans.
Yep.
Looking at just who they have to play and the talent that they have on the roster. I don't think they've been given a fair shake so far given the injuries they've had.
Yeah, one of the easiest schedules moving forward here and a 1-game advantage. They beat Jacksonville on the road, and so they have that tiebreaker there. So as you said, the best outlook among those 3 teams for sure.
All right, now to the top 10 or the top 4 or 5, whatever you're looking at. We're going to put 10 up there. Obviously the Chargers now in 10th, and then all the way up to their Los Angeles, I guess we'll call them rivals. I was just going to say neighbors because I'm not sure they're rivals at this point. The Rams in first. So let's start with 10 through 5. Minnesota there at 6, Philly at 7, Pittsburgh at 8, Baltimore at 9. Which of these teams does not belong?
I would say it's probably a week away from whether or not we know that Baltimore's good, right? So they're going to go to Tennessee this weekend. They're short favorites of 2.5 points. They have been impressive at times, beating Pittsburgh on the road, but then they go ahead and lose to Cleveland in a game where they didn't score a touchdown the entire time. So I think this week is really going to determine whether they're a contender or a pretender. We saw some good Joe Flacco, but then last week he had a passer rating under 60 when clean. So not a great showing there. Not, I think, good for their prospects.
All right, up to the top 5 now. We've got Carolina in 5th. Am I okay saying that I think Carolina is still a little below those top 4 teams? Is that okay?
Yeah, I think I think the real question in the league this week is who's the 5th best team in the NFL. We go with Carolina because they've won 3 of their first 4 games. Cam Newton's playing better as a passer than he has historically. That's really what's held him back the last 2 seasons since his MVP year. And they have some weapons, right? Curtis Samuel made a great play against the Giants. Christian McCaffrey's been great both as a runner and as a receiver. They get Thomas Davis back at linebacker, and I think those things help them, especially in a division that we thought was the best in the league moving forward, a little down with Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Not quite as good necessarily as we thought they were going to be.
Who is the 5th best team?
Well, we say Carolina.
At the end of the year, who will be the 5th best team?
I would say it's probably Minnesota, Philadelphia, or Pittsburgh.
I would agree. All right, the top 4 now. New England plays Kansas City this week, so obviously a very big game. The question here is this: does the winner of that game vault the Rams for the top spot?
Well, I think it depends upon how the Rams play in Denver. I think if the Rams play a very, very convincing game in the altitude, coming off of a tough game against the Seattle Seahawks, I think they stay up top. If they play a kind of a ho-hum game, I do agree. If this Kansas City-New England game is a hard-fought game in which one team is really impressive, I do think that vaults them to number 1.
I disagree. I don't think it matters. The winner of that game will be the number 1 team in the NFL. You'll want to tune in. I hear it's on Sunday night. You should check it out. And of course, we'll be back next week with the after Week 6 overreaction, and maybe we'll whittle it down to 3 teams. Who knows? You'll have to tune in. Check us out at profootballfocus.com. You can check us out also on the PFF forecast. And of course, head to mybookie.ag to make use of all the great information that you get here.